talk about the 1997 high-altitude thriller, Air Force One.
Get off my plane.
Welcome to the first official Movie Monday. This is an interesting series. I actually did a couple of test runs with this in the past. You guys seem to really enjoy it, so we're just gonna do it every Monday. So tune in every Monday because every Monday we're gonna talk about a new movie. And not only that, quick synopsis on the movie, more in-depth detail on the firearms used in the movie. So you can imagine, if you're a movie buff like myself, there's a lot of firearms in movies nowadays, adds the thrill, all that good stuff, right? With that, there's some weird things they choose from a prop perspective, some interesting choices they choose from maybe something that isn't historically accurate, and those kind of things I'm always kind of keep my eye out for to kind of see if it's interesting, and I think it would interest you guys as well. And what a good day to post this about Air Force One, because it's President's Day. Happy President's Day. Now we have Harrison Ford, Gary Oldman, Glenn Close, Wendy Crewson, William H. Macy, and a bunch of other famous folks from those late 90s periods. And what a movie this is. I remember seeing this on like USA Network back in the day, where it was, of course, you know, all kind of chopped up for TV and everything. But I just remember it was a lot of fun. It was interesting. There's a lot of things that were probably not really possible at the time to actually do, but the firearms actually line up pretty well with a few exceptions. Most of the firearm stuff is actually either on the ground in Kazakhstan or on Air Force Ones. You can imagine Secret Service weapons galore. So the premise of the movie is the president goes and sends out special forces to get General Radek from Kazakhstan. Now, of course, what happens, they get him in prison. He goes and meets with the delegates, talk about it and all that. And then, of course, a rogue agent from the Secret Service, kind of like a spy really, is on the plane, helps take over the plane with a bunch of terrorists that he brought in as like a film crew, news crew, and then chaos ensues. Big gunfights in the plane. Somehow they don't hit any windows for a long time, but it's still a lot of fun. And then there's a bunch of stuff that happens throughout the movie. In the end, with, of course, the terrorists losing, and then Harrison Ford and his family getting away. But a bunch of his team ends up sacrificing themselves throughout the movie. Pilots, all that, chief of staff. So it's a fun ride. It's a great movie. It's not that long. It's something from the 90s to kind of get that nostalgia. So in the very beginning, they go after this general, right? So the US Special Forces are actually using MP5Ks, but not only are they using MP5Ks, prop departments a lot of times switch them out. So they're actually using SP89s from H&K, but it's still kind of cool. They're also suppressed. Pretty neat to see in the beginning there. And of course, I have an MP5K variant. They're a lot of fun. They actually have a much higher cyclic rate than the standard MP5. So that's something kind of to note, which is kind of fun because it's a much shorter barrel. Also in the beginning are some AKs. Norinco is a very famous AK manufacturer from China. They go after the presidential palace in Kazakhstan. They go after General Radek. His military guards are using Norinco Type 56 ones. I don't have any of those. However, I do have a Zastava ZPAP M70, which of course is Serbian. Fantastic AK. It's not the underfolder you see throughout the movie, but it's still a great AK, and Zastava has been making quality AKs for a while now, especially with a lot of the restrictions on AKs coming into the US. There's also a guard, which is apparently firing a handgun at some point, but it's so far out. I've seen reports of it either being a Makarov or maybe a Walther PPK, but it's pretty far out, kind of blurred. It's the 90s, film is in 4K. Now, the first handgun you really can kind of tell is a handgun, right, is actually a Beretta. So there's a Beretta 92FS in the movie, and it's a suppressed Beretta that the bad guy, the Agent Gibbs, I believe his name was, he's a Secret Service mole, really, has a suppressed Beretta 92FS, takes out a bunch of guards or a bunch of Secret Service members guarding the armory on board Air Force One. Fascinating part about this is that they never had issued Beretta 92FS anywhere, but the Beretta pops up throughout the movie, even though it was never really issued by the US Secret Service. Now, after single action, you want to go double. You can go into safety here. You can kind of see the trigger's dead. Flip it up. Double action. Now, it was issued by the US Secret Service at the time, and I have one from West Germany, Sig Sauer P226, fantastic 9mm. It's something that was actually issued for military, Navy SEALs, you've probably heard of, had it before. Also, the Secret Service has carried it for many, many years. It's a great handgun. You see it throughout the movie during a couple of execution scenes. A lot of them grab seams, they grab it off Secret Service members. They're kind of pushing forward to the cockpit. So you see the 226 or the 228 sometimes kind of pop up there. Now, 226 is great. It's been around a long time. Did a full review on mine from West Germany. That's the only one I have, which is fine because the one in the movie, they don't have any pick rails yet underneath for light attachments or anything. So it's just kind of a plain standard 226 from the 80s. Now, prop departments go back to even some of the Die Hard movies. They can't get their hands on real H&K MP5s, right? So I have the MP5K. I need to get a full-length regular MP5, but the MP5A3 is kind of what is the traditional looking MP5 that you know, with that triangle plastic handguard and the collapsible stock, right? So I need to get that, just build one out for these videos because they are just phenomenal roller delayed 9mm submachine guns. Of course, semi-auto here in the US. But they actually got HK94A3s, which is very similar, but they kind of have to change them a little bit to mock them up to be H&K MP5A3s. So that's something to note. You'll see the MP5 throughout most of the movie, and that does check out Secret Service war issued MP5s, as well as the Special Forces back then. So it was a very famous submachine gun that would be around, and they're small, compact, perfect for potential plane armory. And of course, MP5K makes its appearance with the bad guys. You have the forward grip there, a little short, no stock there, right? Just running with it. And that's kind of what the MP5K is there for. It's a much shorter, compact option. And the MP5K in a lot of the scenes you see actually doesn't even have a threaded barrel or tri-lug on the end, so you can't really suppress them like you would have seen for the Special Forces earlier on in the beginning. But the MP5K is such a fun little roller delay, just like its bigger brother with the MP5. So if you haven't shot one yet, they're both a lot of fun, and it's something that's really light and handy when you're holding it out there. It's not that bad and not that like hard to hit accurately, which is great. I actually have a lot of fun without even using a brace or a stock on them. Funny enough, besides like smoke grenades, which are also in there, and you've seen them used, I believe they use a smoke grenade to signal that the guards are down, take over the armory. They actually have the M4A1 carbine, which, fun fact, that rifle that's in those racks is the first time in any movie, was what I heard, that they actually had the carry handle removed on those, and it were flat tops, and they're actually throwing on some old red dot sights. I think it was a Seymour SeaTac red dot sight, which was a very rudimentary old red dot sight. But it's interesting because that was like the first time you see that with a flat top in any movie, but you see them on tables and things like that. Quick caffeine break before I mention the last couple that are really interesting. This is actually First Form Energy Orange Sunrise. Just picked up a couple cases of this stuff. This is a green tea based energy drink. I met these guys at a couple of different events over the last year. Finally reached out to them and said, hey, I'd like to get some of your stuff into test. And I got a case of this in here, made in the USA. Apparently it's like a healthier option with 200 milligrams of caffeine. I also sell these big old beef sticks, which are like triple the size of normal beef jerky sticks. I'll drop a link down below if you guys are interested. I don't have any codes or anything, but delicious. And I think you get like a flat rate shipping fee, which is great for some of the heavier stuff. So good price point, all made in the USA. I think they're out of St. Louis. Phenomenal. Link down below. I think it's like firstform.com/gear know-how. So check them out. Kind of like a sparkling Sunny D. It's good. Escape pod. So Harrison Ford fires escape pod, which I don't know if it exists. Probably does. Classified. Who knows? I'm sure you guys can tell me in the comments. If you have any questions, definitely hit them in the comments. Escape pod goes down. The rescue team flies in, and they're going to go and try to find the president's escape pod, right? Of course, he's not in there. Spoiler alert. They go and they run up on him, and they're actually using the Colt Model 727 with the M203 grenade launcher in there briefly with flashlights and things like that, kind of checking out what's going on with the non-removable carry handle, right? So very traditional AR looking kind of setup there. So that was kind of cool to see. It's kind of a rarer variant, I mean, but it was utilized back then at the same time, but it's weird that they would run with those with grenade launchers and everything just to go rescue the president, but maybe they wanted extra firepower to blow something up. End of the movie, that general we talked about earlier, right? Kazakhstani, gets released. And of course, in the end, he does get unreleased with some rounds in the back. But he gets released. He's leaving the prison to the Russian helicopter, which I believe is a Mi-24 Hind helicopter gunship. A lot of those are still seen today in the battlefield, but the guards there that are on the prison side have AKMs. Like we talked about AKs, Zasto has been great so far. And then the guards that are on the general side, right? So there's troops that are on the general side. They actually are armed with AKMSs, right? So it's like a short-barreled AKM. They're not really like an AKU or like a crank or anything. They're kind of like these like modified shortened AKs with like really stubby barrels, but they're all lined up, ready to go and get the general on the helicopter. I think they're a modified, or if they're like an AMD 6.5 style, like side folding stock on there. Of course, 7.62 by 39, most likely built by Norinco, like a Type 56 that's been kind of modified with AKMS parts. And that's what kind of prop companies do quite a bit, is they kind of modify as they need and pull together what they have. And I think they wanted the bad guys to have the shorty AKs and then the full AKs for the guards for one reason or another. Maybe they thought that the gunship guys would have some short AKs on them coming in to go pick up this general. But of course, he doesn't escape. The world is saved. Good job, Mr. Ford. Or President Ford at the time. But actually his name was like President Marshall, I think. But there are some F-15 Eagles that fly in at some point. I mean, this isn't really gun related, but it's a big gun. They have the Vulcan, right? So the Vulcan is an M61 Vulcan. They don't really use it. A lot of times you see a lot of missiles. They have a big dogfight at the end with some MiGs, I believe. I think it was like a MiG-29 or a few MiG-29s, a whole squadron of them. And the F-15s go at it with the MiGs, which is actually pretty rare. You don't see that in movies a lot with some of the dogfights that you would see. Of course, they annihilate a lot of the MiGs. I think one of the F-15 guys goes in and protects Air Force One and flies in, gets hit with a missile, saves the day, but the rudder gets all jacked up, and then so that Air Force One can't land, can't do much, so then they go and bring in like C-130 or something, and they bring that in, bring a cable down, all the guys get on the cable, slide in, get in the cargo bay. Now that's Air Force One, and they fly off, and then Air Force One crashes into the ocean, and that's the end of the movie. What a good ride, though. I mean, it's one of those action movies from the 90s that is just a fun time. Now, of course, a lot of it's not very believable. I get it. But it's such a fun movie. I miss those movies that are just there to entertain you, because a lot of times now it's just jam-packed with CGI or just a bunch of junk where like you just like, no, I just want to be here to be entertained. I don't get it. So those are the golden ages of some of the movies, and of course, we're going to talk about another movie next Monday. So if you have any questions at all about Air Force One, about any of the firearms, I own a lot of the firearms, I've shot a lot of the firearms, except for the missiles. I don't have any missiles or an F-15, but that might be on the schedule. I guess not. Any questions you have down in the comments below, I'll be happy to answer them. As always, train hard because you never know what's coming. Take care of the ones you love. Those are the ones that matter, and we'll see you in the next review or Movie Monday, next Monday. Take care.